be different. My name is, and you're not just going to change. You are going to be different. My name is, and you're not just going to change. You are going to be different. You are going to be out. You are going to be bigger and larger than ever. Imagine the possible. And you know why? Because just you and I going to find the power that's been dormant inside of you all of this time. And all of this time, you will pray to go out and no longer will that be the case. You will be the son. You will be the God or goddess. And you will be the one that everybody looks to and says, hey, look, they're there. The master's there. The teacher there. There's no one that will make my life different. And who am I to do that? Remember, I just tell you, I'm here to tell you. I'm here to change your life. Your life will no longer be the same. Be together. I'm going to conquer your world. Before you know it's everything you imagine possible. Because possible for one simple reason. Everything is possible. My name is, and you're not just going to change. You are going to be different. My name is, and you're not just going to change. You are going to be different.
And welcome to another broadcast of Uncommon Sense. Today we're going to be talking about depression and what leads to depression. Usually it's grief and the cycles that come with grief. We said we were going to talk about that before, and now we're going to do that. So Chris, pay attention. And if you have any questions for me, Chris, please feel free to ask me. Okay. I understand in your time of need, you have a lot happening with you right now. And perhaps it would be a good thing for you to also surround yourself with people who loved your wife as well, who cared for her and to whom she was just as important to her. Brothers, sisters, friends, you know what I mean. And if you want to come on as well, Chris, and talk about stuff, let me put the link right here. And when you click on this link, it allows you to come on to the program. I don't know who my guests are. I gave all the people that were here the last time my link to be here. And let's see if they answer and will come on. Today or not, whether or not they come on, it's not that important. But I think it's important for you to pay attention to. Not that it's not important, you know what I mean. It's more to do with the actual process. But first, let me tell you about what the stages of grief are, and then different ways in which to deal with it. Grief is universal. Okay, at some point in everybody's life, there will be at least one encounter with grief of one kind or another. It may be from the death of somebody you love, a loved one, or maybe a loss of a job or fortune, something close to you, a home, or maybe the end of a relationship, or any other change that alters the life as you used to know it for the last few years. Grief is also very personal, and it's not very neat and not very linear. There isn't, even though I'll outline the stages of grief, it's not very linear. Sometimes the whole thing may be reversed. And it doesn't follow any timelines or schedules. You may cry, you may become angry, you may withdraw, you may feel empty. But none of these things are unusual or wrong. Everyone grieves differently. But there are some commonalities in the stages and the order of the feelings experienced during grief. And where do these stages come from? Were they always with us? No. In way back in the late 1960s, an American psychiatrist named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote in her book entitled On Death and Dying that grief could be divided into 5 stages. Her observations came mainly from working with terminally ill uh, children and adults. And the whole field is called thanatology. She wrote many more books beyond that. But this was the book that caught the public eye. And the theory of grief became known as the Kubler-Ross model of looking at the world. While it's originally devised for people who are ill, these stages of grief can actually be used or adapted for other experiences with loss as well. And so they became more and more in use with time, with psychologists, psychotherapists, and other mental health professionals dealing with people who are going through these grief processes. And it's widely known. Everybody knows that, but it's far from the only popular stages of grief theory. There's much more out there. Others exist. There's some with 7 stages. We'll talk about that at some point, and ones with just 2 stages. But it all depends. But the Kubler-Ross model followed this basically. The 5 stages of guilt are denial, anger, which is followed by bargaining, and then followed by depression, and then acceptance. And in this program, if we have time, I'll deal with how to deal with depression and the steps you need to take. And not everybody is going to experience all of these 5 stages. You may not even go through them in the same order. But grief is different for every person. So you may begin coping with the loss, maybe in the bargaining stage, short circuit the entire process, and you find yourself in anger or denial next, and then you may remain for months, sometimes in one of these 5 stages, and skip all the others. So let's go through and discuss them. So before I bring on any other guests, and just want to see if my thing is, it's all there, waiting for people to know to come on. The link is there, and if you want to make a comment or you want to share, please feel free to do that as well. And Dr. Nisha Irani, if you're listening, please feel free to come on. The first stage of grief, which is denial. First of all, grief is a overwhelming emotion. It's not unusual to respond to this intense and often very sudden feelings because you're never really prepared for it. And so you pretend the loss or the change isn't happening. That's denial. Denying it gives you time, to more gradually absorb the news and begin to process it, because all of this is sudden. And this is a common defense mechanism that people have, and it helps you to numb you to the intensity of the situation. As you move out of this denial stage, the emotions you've been hiding will begin to rise, and you'll be confronted at that point with a lot of sorrow, because that's all part of the journey, because that's a sorrow you've been denying. And this journey of grief, well, it can be very difficult. Let me give you an example of what the denial stage sounds like. In a breakup or divorce, for instance, you might think, oh, they're just upset. This will be over tomorrow. They'll come back. Or if you lost your job, you say, oh, they were mistaken. They'll call tomorrow to say they need me. Or if it's a death of a loved one, well, she's not gone. She'll come around the corner any second. I'm expecting her to just wake up suddenly. Or terminal illness diagnosis. This isn't happening to me. The results must be wrong. Let's test and retest again. And what follows all of that will be where denial comes in. And denial may be considered a coping mechanism. Anger starts from denial and leading into another coping mechanism, which is grief at that point, because the grief masks the effect. So anger is hiding many of the emotions and pain that you carry, the real emotions that you carry. And this anger may be misdirected or redirected at other people, such as the people who died, for instance. You're angry that they left you, or your ex, or your old boss, whichever the case might be. You may even aim your anger at inanimate objects. And so you start to feel literally angry at the whole world. So while your rational brain knows that the object of your anger isn't to blame, your feelings in that moment are just so intense to know the difference, and it doesn't know that. So anger may be, anger may mask itself in feelings like bitterness or resentment, but it may not be clear cut fury or rage at a specific thing. And not everybody will experience this stage, and some may linger at this stage and be angry for many, many, many years. You'd be surprised. And as the anger subsides, you may begin to think more rationally about what's happening and feel and all the emotions you've been pushing aside, finally, to be able to deal with life around you and become fully functional. Examples of what it sounds like, say, for instance, in a breakup or divorce: I hate him, or I hate her. He'll regret leaving me. Oh, she doesn't know what she lost, that kind of stuff. In terms of losing a job, it will sound like the boss was terrible anyway. The company was going downhill. I hope they all fail, it's that sort of thing. Or if it's the death of a loved one, she cared for herself more. This wouldn't have happened if she had just cared for herself more, that sort of thing. And you're very angry that they didn't take care of themselves enough. Or if it's terminally ill diagnosis you're dealing with, well, you'll turn to higher forces and say, where was God? Where is God in all of this? How dare good and kind God make this happen? And that, after the denial and the anger, comes the bargaining stage. And at the bargaining stage, it's during grief, you may feel very vulnerable and helpless at that time. And in these moments of intense emotions, it's not uncommon to look for ways to actually regain control of what, or even wanting to feel like you can affect the outcome of an event. Example, in the bargaining stage of grief, you may find yourself creating a lot of if only I had done this, or what if this was changed? Would that change everything? And you start to make deals with higher forces, with things around you, with people. And it's not uncommon for even some religious individuals to try and make a deal or promise with God or a higher power in return for healing or relief from the grief and the pain. Bargaining is a line of defense against the emotions of grief. So it helps you to postpone the sadness and the confusion or hurt, but it doesn't get rid of it. Examples of this would be, say, for instance, you are in a breakup or divorce. You will say things like, if only I had spent more time with her, she would have stayed. If only I had been less angry, she would have stayed. If only I had communicated more. In a job loss, it will sound like I wish I had worked more weekends to be able to preserve my job, to show that I'm really dedicated. The company would have seen how valuable I am and they wouldn't have let me go. Or in the case of a death of a loved one, if only I had called her that night, or she wouldn't be gone. If only I had done this, if only I had done that, if only I had listened, so on and so forth. That's called bargaining. And terminally ill people, well, you would say things like, if only we had gone to the doctor sooner, if only we had caught it sooner, we could have stopped this. Or maybe if it's the death of a child, you will say things like, if only I had taken care of my own body, I wouldn't have passed it on to my children. And of course, this is not correct. But that's what the mind goes through in terms of bargaining. Then comes the fourth stage, which is depression itself. And we'll talk about this more because most people end up having this depression as well. You see, whereas anger and bargaining can feel very active, depression may feel like a creeping, quiet stage of grief. In the early stages of loss, you may be running from all your emotions, trying to stay a step ahead of all your emotions. And by this point, however, you'll be able to embrace, maybe work through them in a more healthy manner. You may also choose sometimes to isolate yourself from other people in order to fully cope with the loss, to heal yourself. And that doesn't mean that depression is easy or well defined. Like the other stages of grief, depression can be very difficult and very messy. It can feel overwhelming. You may feel foggy, heavy, and confused. And also at the same time, depression may feel like the inevitable landing point of any loss. But if you feel stuck at this point or can't seem to move past this stage of grief, you need to talk with a mental health professional, somebody like myself, a therapist, a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, somebody who's trained in this sort of work to be able to help you with that. Not just any therapist. Sometimes a specialized therapist will be able to help you. Grief therapy, and that's how they help you. The examples of what it sounds like during a divorce or breakup is, why go on at all? That's how depression sounds like. Why go on at all? In a job loss situation, it would be, I don't know how to go forward from here. I don't know what to do at this point. I give up. From a perspective of when you lost a loved one, what am I going to do? How am I going to live without her? And terminally ill diagnosis will sound like this. My whole life comes to this terrible end. There is nothing beyond this. And so those kind of things will lead into severe depression. Then comes the fifth stage of grief, which is acceptance. Acceptance is not necessarily a happy or uplifting stage of grief. You have to know this. It's besides the pop psychology outlet that tells you what it is. It's not necessarily happier, but it doesn't mean that you've moved past the grief or loss. It does, however, mean that you've accepted it and have come to understand what it means in your life, in the overall stages of your life. You may feel very different at this stage. That's entirely expected. You've had a major change in your life, and that upends the way in which you feel about many things. So look to acceptance as a way to see that there may be more good days than there are bad days. And there may still be bad days, and they will come, but that's okay. I'll give you an example of what it's like, acceptance stage. When you have a breakup or a divorce, it will sound like this. Ultimately, this was a healthy choice for me. Ultimately, it was a good decision that she left, he left, we left. Or in a job loss situation, it will sound like this. I'll be able to find a way forward from here. Now I can start a new path. I can explore that business I've always wanted to start. Or in the death of a loved one, I'm so fortunate to have had so many wonderful years with him or her, and she will always be in my memories, or he will always be in my memories. For a terminally ill diagnosis, you can say, I have the opportunity now to tie things up, to make sure that I get to do what I want to do in these final weeks and final months of my life. So that's when you begin to realize that these are the Kubler-Ross models of looking at the world. There is another one called the 7 stages of grief. And basically, I won't go into depth on that one, but just to let you know so that you'll have something. And if you are not writing down notes now, you can play this recording backwards, and you'll be able to what happened to my... Okay, here we go. I hope this works. My thing froze, and it's terrible when your thing freezes. You know, Facebook is doing some really funny things. They create these things like, it tells me there are more shows like this taking place, and this is going to help you. Let me answer some questions also in the meanwhile, but before I do that, let me finish the thought that I have. We were talking about 7 stages. The 7-stage model sounds like this. First stage, shock and denial. Second stage, pain and guilt. The shock and denial comes together. It's a state of disbelief and numbed feelings. And pain and guilt, you may feel like the loss is somehow is so unbearable that you're making other people's lives harder because of your current feelings and your current needs. Anger and bargaining is the third stage following that. And you may lash out, telling God or higher power that you'll do anything if only they'll grant you relief from these feelings or bring back the situation to the way it was. Then followed by depression, and it's a period of time or isolation and loneliness during which you process and you reflect on the loss. And then comes the upward turn. At this point, the stage of grief is like anger, and the pain has died somewhat, but you're left in a more calm and relaxed state, able to deal with things. And then comes the 6th stage, which is reconstruction and working through. You can actually begin to put pieces of your life together, and you carry forward. You become what we call in psychology more functional, and starting to deal with the world a little bit better. The perceived value of that for a lot of people is that, okay, you got over it. Stop listening to people. They're all full of crap. Anyway, just listen to yourself. You are your best guide. Also, at the same time, the final stage, the 7th stage, is acceptance and hope. And this is a very gradual acceptance of the new way of life and a feeling of possibilities for the future. So you don't actually put yourself out totally. So I wanted to cover that because it's very necessary for you to know what the different stages are. Let me take a little break here and find out if there are any questions. Ashok, welcome. Mamaji, welcome. My mother was listening. Ting Sawasdi from Thailand, welcome. Who else is here? Iktimal, hello from Lebanon, welcome. Ting says, I take depression pills for almost 15 years already. Okay. Check with your psychiatrist as well. I'm going to ask you to take something called 5-HTP as a replacement. But first of all, take it together and then slowly wean yourself off, because they have long-term effects on your personality as well. Chris says, may I speak as to my circumstances with audio and not having to type the circumstances? Yes, of course. Click on that link. I'll put the link up here. I cannot hear you through YouTube but go into StreamYard. You're actually in StreamYard right now, Chris. And just go in and you can turn the video off and leave the sound on, and that's okay. And that's fine, and you can speak to me. And that will work. Zoya told me, I'm so happy to hear your teachings. I'm sorry I do not speak English. I record and translate. I read everything I can find about your writings. Thanks a lot. My absolute pleasure, Zoya, to help you anyway. Grazie. You're welcome. Can you hear me? I'm using YouTube. No, I cannot. I don't have YouTube turned on because I need another machine to be able to do that. And the only machine I have that plays the music is not talking to the internet because it's so old. So I will get some thing. Just click on that link I just sent you. You see the in YouTube? Just click on that link. You will show up here. And then what you need to do is to test your camera, and then you can just simply turn off your camera and continue talking to me. You don't have to mute the button. Would that be okay? Or you can turn the camera into another direction, facing a book or a picture or something in your house, if you're shy. But I would love to hear from you. I will listen to you. Awesome. Thank you. Do I have any more questions here? No. Mona, welcome. Malenki, Malinka, welcome. And I use suck corn. You suck corn and I don't care. You suck corn and I don't care. And Joycelyn, welcome to the room as well. So I'll wait for you to show up, Chris, and don't be shy. And once you get it all ready, let me know, and I will talk to you. If I can explain to you right now, one of the most important ways in which you deal, if you're fairly younger, I mean, you're not yet in your 40s, joining in the rituals will help. You know, everything from family memorial services, even in the funeral itself, or even traditions like 1 year, second year, third year anniversary, and all of that will help people get through, you know, all of this, the pain that you're feeling and the loss. And because it honors the person who just died, and being in the presence of other people who knew your loved ones, like I said before, can be very comforting because all of you are together. You're not alone. And I must tell you, if you're like 30-ish or so, please let your emotions be expressed and released. Don't stop yourself from having a good cry. If you feel that one is coming on, go ahead and do that. Take time away from people, walk away. It's not rude. Don't worry. Don't hold it in. Maybe listening to a particular song or doing certain things is painful because it brings back the memories of that person that you lost. It's natural to feel this way. It really is natural. And after a while, it will become less painful. So know that you can and you will feel better over time because you found ways in which to cope with that bursting emotions when you talk more about it. When you keep it all in, it tends to, I remember the image of, and it's stuck in my head in my early years of learning how the mind operates, psychology, bringing people back from the brink, that it's a picture of a man at the bottom of a dam. A dam holds back a ton of water in a lake, and he's got his back towards a door that's holding all of the water back, and the door looks like it's bending at the top and bending at the bottom, and all the water is coming out, and he's putting his back against it. So when you hold your emotions and keep them in and you swallow them in, that's exactly what's happening with you mentally, emotionally, so that you are, all your energies are doing just that, are focused on that. So as a result, what happens is you're not talking about it, makes it even bigger and makes the force even bigger. When you do explode, well, guess what? You lose control about it, you know? Some people even find it very helpful to tell the story of their loss of the person and talk about their feelings. But sometimes a person doesn't feel like talking about loss, and that's okay. That's fine. No one should be pressured to talk. But if you can find somebody you trust, that you can be open to, who's not judgmental. This is important. Not judgmental, not telling you, get over it, you know, dust off your clothes and face the people like a soldier, something like that. You know, tell them mentally to fuck off and just be by yourself, because they have no idea the loss you feel. And persuade yourself not to be angry and just listen and understand. You're so stupid, and just walk away. It's as simple as that. So even if you don't feel like talking, find ways to express your emotions and your thoughts, maybe through painting, maybe through writing. Start a journal, if you will, about the memories, you know, that you have of the person. You don't have to be writing a book. Just write down. This is for yourself. It's a diary between you and that person you lost, and how you're feeling since the loss. Write letters to the person, because in some capacity, that song, that poem, that tribute, that letter that you write for your loved ones, even though it's done privately, I believe that they are listening to it, and that they are listening to you as well. Find ways to preserve the memories. Create maybe a memorial tribute or something like that. You know, the person to the person who died, by maybe planting a tree in a garden that represents them in honor of the person in a very fitting way, like taking part in organize a charity run or a walk in the honor of that person that you lost. Create a memory box, a folder that is reminders of all that, of what the person did and what was important to the person and you. Also, mementos, photos, quotes, whatever you choose. If you want, you can write a letter and fold it, address it to him, her, and put it in that box, understanding that in some capacity it's making it to her. So you want to also express your feelings, your true feelings, how much you miss them, things that you want to say, perhaps even thank them for being part of your life while they were here. And more than necessary, please join a support group. You're not the only one in the world that has lost somebody. So when you start to pay attention to this, many things become available to you as well. Chris, I am waiting for you to click on this link. Let me give it one more time. You'll see this link in YouTube. I want you to click on it because that will bring you here in front of me, and I'll be able to hear you. Okay? Thing says, don't be sad about me. I'm not sad. I'm just thankful for all bad situations. Now I'm content, happy, and stronger. Okay, good. But if you want to be off of that, then the substance I tell a lot of my clients to take is this, and I'm going to write it down. It's a health thing, HTP. Ooh, that's spelled wrong. I'm sorry. Let me get rid of that. It doesn't allow me to change it. What I wrote there was wrong. The real thing is, I can't get around to the keyboard because of this microphone that's in my way. There we go. It's called 5-HTP. It's a natural substance. It's not chemicals. It stands for hydroxytryptophan. And what it does is the precursor for building up serotonin in your body, or precursor for building up tryptophan. Tryptophan is found in foods like bananas and milk, and the body takes the tryptophan and turns it into serotonin. Higher serotonin levels means that you are significantly less depressed in the way in which you deal with the world and the way in which you feel also as well. And it causes a neurochemical change in your head, makes you happier by all means. Especially if you're struggling with the loss of a relationship or anything. I do not see any link. See you as full screen, but nothing to click. It's on the side, Chris. It's on the side in the conversations. That would be very cool if you could do that. How do I get to YouTube from here? But you see, if I do it here, then I'm going to lose everybody on StreamYard. And this computer is useless as hell. So this other one, this is like 15 years old. The other one. Why do I keep old machines around me? I don't know. They serve me well. I don't want to just put them out like that. See, I do not see any links. See you as full screen, but nothing to click. Okay. You'll find it, and I'll talk to you. If not, I will find a way to bring you on. Let me see if I can right now. Nope, I'm not able to click on you. Let me see if I can put user. No, it only allows you to block you or put you in timeout. I don't want to do that. Do not know how to do this. I will learn, Chris, and then maybe next time we can even talk. But I think you should be able to see a dialogue happening on the side of the screen, and then it should help. There are a lot of crazy people who put things out there as well. Yeah? So, so you got it, right? Okay. You know, I just want to say something. In our hearts, we all know that death is a part of life. In fact, death gives meaning to our existence, because it reminds us how precious, how really precious life is. So when someone you love dies and you're experiencing life's most stressful event, with the word bereavement, the word bereavement literally means to be deprived by death. So when this happens, you will actually likely experience a range of emotions, a lot. And even if the death was expected, it can include things like numbness, denial, like we went through with disbelief, confusion, shock, sadness, yearning, anger, humiliation, maybe death, and despair and grief. So how do you handle all of these feelings? Well, let me give you some ways in which you can do that. Practical ways. So I'm not going to give you the science behind all of this, because trust me, it works. And there's a lot of people for at least 100 years who worked on this and kind of felt that as well. Number one, surround yourself with people who care about you. This can include friends and family. And more often than not, it can include people from that support group I told you to be a part of. They're consisting of people who are also experiencing loss. So while you're with caring people, sharing your feelings in ways that feel right to you, it can also help you with coping with the grief. I am so sorry about the mispronunciations. My tongue is not working because of the lack of water. Today I've been involved with so much activity that I forgot to drink. Can you believe it? Yeah, and I'm the guy who is not taking care of himself is going to give you the next piece of advice, which is take care of yourself. So do as I say, don't do as I do. So sad. After you lose somebody close to you, you may be tempted to dwell on the past and keep your mind there and think about all the things you've been through. And although it's normal to think about your loved one and to remember good memories and good times and challenging ones as well, you need to make the effort to focus on the present time, the living around you as well, which includes eating well, reacting, interacting as well, getting enough rest, seeing your doctor as often as you need to see your doctor, avoiding any temptations that you may want to use to numb out the feelings, like alcohol or medications to numb your feelings or of grief. And you do that, then that's called taking care of yourself. Exercise right, and keep your mind focused on possibilities, on what's coming, what's next, the things that you want to do now, and maintain a relationship with the person that you lost by saying, I wish you were here and could enjoy this as well, and make it a process where they are somehow from a different space become your angels, become your guides, and they're always with you. And in reality, this is true, actually. If you know what I know about what happens on the other side, they become your significant guides and your significant angels, and they guide you, and they're always with you. So, but when you do all of this, remember to let other people help you, because there are a lot of people that want to help you. It's not that they want to be seen helping you, it's just they really want to help you. People who love you will want to help you. They might, for example, tell you that, when they notice that your behavioral changes are concerning, right? They really are concerned about you as they say this, and they might spend extra time with you so you don't feel lonely as such. Or they may give you extra time and space to process your feelings, or maybe even a friend or a family member is doing something especially helpful, and let that person know as well. Remember, while they are taking care of you, and supporting you, you are also thanking them, and so that it becomes an interactive thing. They know that what they're doing is useful to you in some capacity. So conversely, if friends are giving you an extra space, for example, and but what you really need is a visitor or two, let them know that as well. So go up to in the internet. You know, the internet shares. There's so many sites that share common ways to help when older adults lose a loved one. You know, and there might be some ideas in those articles and the sites, you know, that you might use and you find especially comforting. So share these as well with the people you love, and you'll be surprised. Also, at the same time, Chris, I'm still waiting for you. I just want you to know. Yes, Mona, a lot of people are becoming more and more depressed. And yes, 5-HTP is a natural product. I'll write all my comments. SVP, do not try. Okay. All right. I'll find a way to get onto YouTube as well. I know it's broadcasting there, but I'm not sure how it's doing it. So it's going to be a little bit difficult. If you have any other questions for me also, please bring this, type it in here, type it on Facebook so far, and I'll try and get another phone or another device if I can find one. I do have one, but I can't bring it out now. It's going to take me a half an hour to get it going and charged. I just realized that I do have another phone-like device that I can use. I just have to find a place on this crowded table to be able to put it up. Okay, where were we? We were talking about, yes, postpone all your major decisions whenever possible. Grieving takes a lot of patience. So give yourself time to grieve and avoid selling your home, for instance, you know, because you can't be there anymore. Quitting your job unless it's absolutely necessary you do to look after the children or to do something that your loved one was doing before he or she left. You can make major life decisions better, much better, when you are feeling more like yourself. Don't do it now. Good advice, don't do it now. Don't make a full life change. Get over everything. Get to the point where not over, but get to a point where you are more yourself, more able to think. You've accepted what has happened, and you come into a form where you are now ready to meet the world on your own terms. You know, it's a time to adjust to your loss and whatever is going to be your new normal, so to speak. So consider, which is the next step, consider grief counseling. Talking to a counselor, not just a friend, because sometimes a friend or a father or mother or brother, sister, uncle, aunt, grandfather, grandmother is limited in their perception of how they can help you through your sorrow. They'll come from their perspective and their lenses of seeing the world. Some people may say, example, I've heard a person say the other day that a person who commits suicide is a coward. I said, are you serious? No, it's not. Sometimes it's the hardest thing in the world to understand, and a lot of people don't understand that. It's a way of thinking and a way where all possibilities are gone. It's a very deep, deep hole. And trust me, because I have been there at some point, and I've been with at least, I don't know, I've dealt with at least 500, 600 clients who've actually wanted to commit suicide, and helping them through is always very, very tough. You have to change the way of thinking. So spend more time with a health professional who's not going to make value judgments and not going to make any form of judgment on you as well. Whether you are taking your time coping, doesn't matter. Your pace is your pace. So talking to a counselor one-on-one can help you through your sorrow. Someone who's in the mental health field and who has a history of dealing with people with depression, and so on and so forth. So therapy groups might also help you. Find out what's best for you. Talk to your medical doctor. I'm sure you have one, and they have some people that they trust, that they send their family doctors to, their family members to, these counselors, and some other people as well. And they're in the process of counseling right now, maybe even. You could even check with your local churches or synagogues, mosque, temples, local hospitals, even the hospices are there to help you. You'd be surprised. So, and they will tell you who's good and who's not, and avoid this person and just go here instead. So remember, that is a sign of strength, not weakness, when you ask for help. So I think in some cases, like the National Institute for Aging, National Institute for Psychological Research, it offers a lot of coping skills and how to cope with life as well. And finally, take charge of your new life. There are so many articles on the internet, so many magazines out there, mental health related, that focuses on how to cope when losing a spouse, and it helps to have things to do every day. Whether you're still working or you're retired, or write down all your weekly plans and execute them, and that's what these centers will tell you. And the weekly plans can be anything from walking with friends, joining an exercise class, a yoga class, a bowling game, golf, babysitting your grandchildren maybe at that point, visiting the library, offering your services, to the library, volunteering your services. Each person is unique, so and so is each relationship unique. So it's not surprising that the pathways to coping with grief, well, those are unique as well. What I covered so far from start to finish today is all about the general path, but you are different, and you're always different. And people ask, well, then what are the steps that go into it? And the steps are very simple. And again, if you are not going to be able to write this down, you'll be able to say this. Chris says, I am writing chat. Do you read me? Yes, I do read you, Chris. What am I mad at is the family treated me as an outcast after that. Why? I don't understand. I mean, is something wrong with them? Why would they do that? Please help me explain that while I talk onwards. By the way, today's topic is dealing with grief and the loss, and the various stages of dealing with grief and loss. And Chris has been with his wife for 15 years, I think I remember him saying last week. And when you know somebody very deeply like that, it's like having the ability to listen to the moon, sometimes just by looking at the ocean, or finding that a bird or a hawk or something laid some leaves at your feet. It seems impossible while it's happening, and yet it's happening. Knowing deeply somebody is very, very tough. And then after knowing them deeply and you think you know everything, then they are gone somehow. And how do you deal with that at that point when you thought this was going to be forever, and all of a sudden you say, what? It's going to be very, very difficult. So sometimes there are many things you got to work on. So if you have any questions about all of these causes of depression, I could offer you a clinical perspective on all of this, where somebody would ask, say, for instance, because all of this would lead into depression, especially if you don't work through all the different stages. And there are a number of stages and number of factors that can actually increase the chance of depression. Abuse, for instance, past physical or sexual or emotional abuse can actually increase the vulnerability to clinical depression later on in life. That may have happened as a child. Certain medications you're taking. That's why I asked you, Ting, to consider weaning off slowly the depression, because someone who has a biological vulnerability to develop depression this depression may result from personal conflicts or disputes with family members or friends, but sometimes taking certain drugs, like say for instance the ones that they use to treat acne, for instance, even the antiviral drug interferon alpha or corticosteroids can increase your risk of depression. Just natural drugs that you take for something else can create that as well. Again, like Chris was going through, the death or a loss of someone, sadness or grief from the death of a loved one, or loss of a loved one through natural causes even may increase the risk of depression. Another cause of depression is genetics. A family history of depression will increase the risk. It's thought that depression is a complex trait, meaning that there are probably many different genes that each one, though, exerts a very small effect, but the cumulative effect, is depression. It's not just one gene that contributes to the disease risk. The genetics of depression, like most psychiatric disorders, are not as simple or straightforward as in purely genetic diseases like Huntington's or fibrosis or something like that, cystic fibrosis or something. Major events, even good events, such as starting a new job or graduating or getting married, can lead to depression. People don't realize that, because your body deals with positive stress the same way it deals with negative stress. And it's sometimes so heavy that your body cannot control that. So, and you lead into a depression, and you don't know why. You have everything you want, everything you need, everything you have, all the money in the world, all the relations in the world. Why are you so depressed? So moving, losing a job or an income, getting divorced, retiring, all of that. The syndrome of clinical depression is never just a normal response to a stressful life event. It's very complex. Other personal problems, such as social isolation, like now during COVID, for instance, the depression rate is rising astronomically, and mental illnesses, start to become overwhelming and hard to deal with. Being like now, Chris was saying, being cast out of a family or a social group can contribute to the risk of developing clinical depression at the same time. So serious illnesses sometimes also coexist with major illnesses, can trigger other medical conditions, and as well as depression at the same time. Substance abuse. It is said that nearly 30% of people with substance abuse problems also have major or clinical depression. So even if drugs or alcohol temporarily makes you feel better, they ultimately will aggravate the depression and make it even deeper. And so there's a whole lot of biology, and there's a lot of research, and you can look it up on the internet. I don't have to cover it now here, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet that talks about the differences in the brains of people who have clinical depression as compared to those who do not. The hippocampus, the part of the brain, is a small part of the brain that is vital to the storage of memories. And it appears to be smaller in people with, some people with a history of depression, rather than those who've never had been depressed. A smaller hippocampus has fewer serotonin receptors. And serotonin is one of the many brain chemicals that is known as neurotransmitters that allow communication across circuits that can affect different brain regions into that may involve itself in processing of emotions and so on and so forth. So scientists are not yet clear what the smaller hippocampus, how it became smaller in some people with depression, but we do know that this is what the research shows. So, and some researchers have found that the stress hormone, cortisol, is produced in excess in depressed people, and these investigators believe that cortisol has maybe a toxic or shrinking effect on the development of the hippocampus and other parts of the brain as well. And some experts theorize that depressed people are simply born with a smaller hippocampus and therefore inclined to suffer from depression naturally. So anyway, there are many other brain regions and pathways between specific regions of the brain, and they're thought to be involved with depression as well. And likely no single brain structure or pathway fully accounts for clinical depression. But one thing is certain: depression is a complex illness with many contributing factors. All the latest studies and scans of brain structure and functions actually suggest that antidepressants can exert what is called neurotropic effects, meaning that they can help to sustain certain cells, nerve cells, and prevent them from dying and allowing them to form stronger connections that withstand this biological stress from all the cortisol that's flowing through your system and in your blood. So as scientists will start to gain a better understanding of these causes of depression, many health professionals will be able to make better, more tailored diagnosis, and in turn maybe prescribe more effective treatment plans as well. So that's a whole study that we can talk about at some point as well, and we also need to be paying attention to that as well. I don't see any attempt here, Chris, where you're coming in. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry, I missed all of this. Where is that? Because they felt that I was a gold digger, and since we were not officially married due to our lifestyle, they shown their color of hatred only after death. They were only interested in her testament, her last will and testament. Okay. Thank you so much for all your wise teaching. See you soon. With respect, Zoja. Respect is returned. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.
It's 10 o'clock.
Till 10 o'clock, Zoja, I appreciate it. So Chris says they were mad and angry since I was also mentioned in the will. That's what testament means. They retaliated by giving me wrong time of funeral. Oh my God. This can go into a serial. For them to do that is, again, not good, but it's very sad. Kindly read my response. How do you break the cycle of depression? It comes from gene and family history. This is Mona who said that. Eco Music SG. Hi, Dr. Gill. Oh, wow. Oh, she's on. Hang on for a second. Echo, hi. Can you hear me? Is it eco or echo? How do I say this?
Hey, Dr. Gill. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi. Perfect.
Echo,
Perfect.
Echo.
Echo. How are you? And he said hi by leaving. Anyway, Thing says, I'm taking depression and lithium. The doctor prescribed for me every 6 months. I got it. I have mentioned above as to my anger towards the family. Do you read me? Yes, I did. You're angry with them. They even cremated her without your presence. I'm so sorry to hear that. So sorry to hear that.
Hey, Dr. Gill.
Echo, how are you? Echo. It's
Good,
been a while.
I saw you streaming and I just hopped on and I saw your StreamYard link, so I clicked on it.
Today we're helping a friend. I think he's from Italy. I think Chris Bacha, who just lost his common law wife, 15 years.
Today we're
And you need to have headphones on so that we don't have feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a moment. Ah.
And so if you can help us contribute to that somewhat, that would be very, very useful for Chris, because
Sure.
I'm trying to focus this entire program for him and for people who are experiencing what he's experiencing. But not only did he lose his wife, but the family is angry with him, and they were looking for her money more than anything else and her assets. And so, from India, sorry, but settled in Montreal. And so her family thinks that he's a gold digger. And so, because part of that will and testament went to him as well. And so they didn't tell him about the time of the funeral, and they cremated her without him present. That's kind of odd to do, and so this smacks of all the TV dramas we watch, that kind of thing. And I don't know how to respond to that, without starting a war or something like that. But and I can understand the anger that he feels right now at them. So he's feeling loss, but at the same time feeling anger. What would you do in that situation?
I think the first thing I do is I would take an old TV and have a baseball bat. I mean, like, Chris, I think I'm a lot younger than you, so maybe my perspective is a little different.
Tell them how old you are.
I'm 29.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right now working as a junior producer in a creative agency. So I met.
He's known as DJ Echo.
Yeah, I was also a club DJ for a long time, and I actually met Dr. Gil through his son, who is an amazing guy as well. You guys should hear him talk as well.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot from both Dr. Gil and his son, and like one thing I learned through like listening to them, reading their stuff, and also the other stuff that they've asked me to read. Like the first thing you gotta do is you gotta let go of your anger, but it's not like let go in a way where you're not allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to have that emotion. So the first thing first is you need to at least give yourself the ability to let that emotion out. So that's why I said baseball bat and a TV, and like an old TV, just go like bang, 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 let it out. Then after that, ask yourself, because from what I've read from your comments, your relationship with your partner is very different. It's not traditional in a sense, right? So would your partner want you to feel that kind of anger and grief at her family?
Very good. Very good. He's 76.
You're old enough to be my granddad.
That did not make him feel better. Sri Kumar from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Welcome to the show. Sri, if you have any comments you want to make, please feel free to do that right now and come on board or say something, and to help Chris here. He's 76 years old, originally from India, settled in Montreal. I would suspect that, hey, Kantinan, welcome. And I suspect that his family are Canadian, French Canadian, and so on and so forth. Kantinan is from Bangkok. Welcome. The noun, not the verb. So, Chris, very good advice. And I really appreciate you doing that. I can see a green screen behind you. Are you also broadcasting now?
I'm broadcasting on your stream right now. But when I do broadcast like DJ streams or I do branded shows, like I use this to like put like in the background like different visuals and stuff like that.
How wonderful! How wonderful!
Yeah. You gotta improvise,
Yeah, I can see you doing that.
Yeah.
How are you at connecting a lot of equipment together to a podcasting station that I built, but it's not fully put together. Are you okay with putting it all
I
together, or you know how to do?
what are you doing tomorrow for lunch?
I think I'm an Uber driver for my parents. They have to go from one place to another. Tomorrow is not a good day because it's Thursday, but Friday is a much better day for me.
The problem is I have class because I'm taking my real estate license right now. So I have
Next
class on Friday. We will figure out maybe
Next week.
Tuesday or Thursday next week, and then
Done.
I will come by and I will help you with your equipment.
Great. I appreciate your help. And then
No
maybe
worries.
get some advice about what to use and programs to use so that I can make it cleaner and more
Actually,
digestible.
Yours is really pretty good. Why are you using the stream on StreamYard? You're just using the website?
Because StreamYard is idiot proof.
Yeah. But it works. It's actually really, really good. Like that's exactly what you need. You don't really need anything else for what you're doing, unless you
Yeah.
want to do like, oh, I want to talk about this video. I want to talk about this thing. Like unless you're doing that kind of stuff.
I want to graduate to that.
It's quite easy. You actually have an option below called Share Screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you click on Share Screen, it'll probably give you a prompt to share a window or a program that you're running. So you could probably like have a window that is running a YouTube channel, a YouTube video that you want to share.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have to talk about this because it says I have to use Chrome.
Premium Chrome. Yeah,
Chrome. And,
I'll come and help you. I'll come and help you.
And it says it works best on a good computer, which I don't have, by the way. And screen sharing is easiest with 2 monitors, which I don't have, by the way.
Don't worry. I will help you with that next week. Don't worry.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. How's business going? How's everything? You are now in the COVID way of working as a DJ.
I haven't DJed in a very long time. I've been working as a video editor. I've been working freelance. I just started work as a junior producer.
Mm-hmm.
I've been just moving out. I actually have a book idea that I wanted to talk to you about.
Sure.
And I've talked to Luke about it. Yeah. So I probably want to talk to you about it because it's in the kind of stuff that you do as well.
All
and
right.
I needed your help on it. So I'll talk to you about that next week.
It will be my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So I'm gonna if you could help with some closing arguments, I'm gonna continue with helping him with the depression right now because he's in the denial stage from what his comments are. I've had many dreams about my soulmate as being alive. In fact, all of my dreams depict that she is still not dead. So that's a denial stage. So he's at the beginning of all of this, and I need to give him the good and bad news that it's going to get significantly worse.
I'll hop off camera. I'll let you do your thing.
All right. Thank you. Good meeting you, sir.
See you, Dr. Gil.
Bye-bye. And that was an old friend who is a famous DJ, actually. He does a lot of work between Guam and that part of the whole United States. And Luke and I have been working with him about bringing what he does to Europe. And because Luke runs an agency in Europe, and it has to do with the European Speakers Association or something to that effect. Anyway, Luke's got a lot of plans, and he's so busy that he's not able to be in this show tonight. Chris, we took a little bit of a break to welcome Echo, DJ Echo, but I want to tell you that it's going to be not easy riding from now till a little bit later. You're going to have to, at this age, you're going to have to release a lot of that anger to be able to live life positively. You're going to need to be the kind of person that lets go, see things from other people's perspective, because the anger is not going to help you. You know, if you look at it from a wisdom perspective, I think it was not just Buddha, but Jesus who said the same thing, and a lot of the great prophets also said the same thing. that if you are angry with someone or group of people, then it's like drinking poison and expecting them to die. They don't know and they don't care, it sounds like. And so, and they're angry with you for so many reasons, taking their daughter away, their, so on and so forth. These things, as sister, brother, whoever is involved in this act. And maybe all they wanted was the material stuff. Go past that. You are now where you are right now. And the different stages that I was telling you about that you were going through. Remember, I told you before we were, I hope you had some kind of takeaway from any of that we talked about, because you're about to experience this denial stage going into anger, which is starting to brew, and then you'll start to bargain, and you'll have depression and acceptance coming in at the end. But if you have so much anger with you, it's going to be very difficult, because you'll be in that anger and bargaining stage mixed together. Pain and guilt, you're not sure if you did the right thing or the wrong thing. The depression will come because it's you're going to be isolated. So I would suggest that you surround yourself with a lot of friends, because it's going to be necessary. Let me give you some advice. Maybe there's a lot of advice here, so be ready to write the notes down. And if you don't, from a personal perspective, okay? Nothing really clinical in any of this, but this is new for you. And like any cut that's new, it's going to take time to heal. And recovering from a loved one's death. Well, there are two things here: family and your loved one, and the loss of a loved one. They're not together. They happen together, but they're not together. That's a whole different thing with the family. That may involve family therapy, a gestalt, if they are willing. I cannot help both sides unless both sides are willing. One side is a little bit different. With you, I would use the wisdom approach if it's only you. And with them, then we'll use a gestalt or a family constellation sort of thing. Recovering from a loved one's death requires more than just time. And yet, if we allow ourselves the time to mourn, we can gradually break this grief's grip on us, recognizing that the role and the value of the grieving process actually starts to orient us, to accepting the fact of death. And acceptance marks a major step towards recovery. That's if you want to recover. And grief is universal. You have to know this. I said this before in the beginning of this program. Grievers, however, are distinct. Even though grief is universal, grievers are separate individuals. Not everybody is the same or feels the same way. Grieving follows a pattern, but each person that grieves experiences it differently, this pattern. So awareness of this basic pattern reveals common common good and common ground for mutual help and support. Recognition of a uniqueness, your uniqueness, enables grievers to usually help themselves. In your case, you will, when you regain control of the direction of your life. Before she died, where were you headed? What were you doing? What were you all planning to do? And sometimes going through the ritual of finishing that which you both talked about that you would do would also be very, very useful and very helpful as well. If she says that she wanted to have in the last days of her life to be able to sit, I don't know what you plan, but let's say, example, to sit in every coffee shop in the world and drink coffee and write a book or something like that, then make that ritual and say, for you, darling, sweetheart, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to bring you, and maybe bring a piece of her along with you, that she'll always be with you, a chain, an ornament that you wore, an earring, something. Um, just little things that people won't notice, but you will know. Don't go crazy and start wearing her dresses and stuff. It's not going to work out good for you. You see, shock, which is where you're in right now. Shock, disbelief, denial, initiates us into mourning. We go numb when someone we love dies. We feel stunned in a trance, like, not sure what is up and down. And this is nature's way of cushioning us against any form of tragedy. The length and the depth of the state varies according to our relationship and the depth of our relationship, or the cause of death even, whether it was sudden or slow, expected. Shock allows us time to absorb what has happened and begins to adjust slowly for us, mentally, emotionally. And the guidance of caring people can actually sustain new grievers. So maybe at that point, what you need to do is find and surround yourself with people who knew both of you as a couple and spend more time with them. Because as the numbness wears off and acceptance begins to grow, you will regain control of the direction that you were headed in. You have to know that grief causes depression. There are various causes of depression, but grief in particular, because grievers, people like you, typically and in varying degrees experience loneliness, and depression follows. And this path will, lead down a hole where you will need to find therapists that can work with you, or mental health professional that can work with you, because this pain that you feel, trust me, it will pass. The pain will pass and morph into something else. And being alone need not result in loneliness. Reaching out to others, well, that's a key way to lessen the loneliness and to overcome depression. But don't be alone if you can't handle the aloneness and able to find yourself able to process that as well. Grief is hazardous to our health. The mental and emotional upset of a loss by death causes physical distress and vulnerability to illnesses. All parts of our brain are involved. Besides the hippocampus, there's also that limbic structure where there's a seat of emotional bonding and physical bonding, and that will you will start to feel physical pain. So expect that to happen, because people who grieve sometimes neglect healthy nourishment, exercise. So I wanted you to pay attention to take a walk, if you will, outside. You don't have to do heavy exercise, but just take a walk. I realize it's getting colder. Temperatures are dipping in Montreal now to about 8 degrees or so every day, but keep warm. Don't overindulge in drinking or smoking or other kinds of medication if you can. We might need a doctor's advice with regard to your symptoms and their causes and their treatment, but at some point also pay attention to the physical body that you have left. When you grieve, you need to know that grieving is normal. The death of a loved one makes the future very uncertain. You had a future in mind, and now it's not clear. Sometimes it might cause panic in the face of the unknown. What do I do now? And you might fear life without your loved one, who died beside you. This panic prevents concentration, affects your focus, and it defers the acceptance of the finality of death. It tempts us to run from life, to avoid people, to refuse to try new things. We might even think sometimes that we're going crazy. And patience with ourselves and a willingness to accept this help from outside enables us to subdue panic and outgrow its confusion with everybody as well. So you got to pay attention to the fact that your body is undergoing, as much as your mind, your body is also undergoing a process. And grievers like yourself, people who grieve, they suffer from guilt feelings. Many people blame themselves after a loved one's death, for the death itself, or maybe for faults in the relationship. I could have been a better husband. I could have been a better lover. I could have been a better listener. I could have been a better coach, whatever the case might be. Brother, sister, mother, father. We have all made mistakes, and we sincerely regret, some of these mistakes, and sometimes that is the best response to them, is to sincerely regret. However, self-reproach out of proportion to our behavior affects our mental health and impedes our recovery in the long term. Close friends, like I said before, or trusted counselor, mental health professional, can help us in confronting and dealing with guilt feelings, whether they're justified or exaggerated. And you have to pay attention to that as well. Excuse me. Oops. A lot of questions. Hang on for a second. I have many dreams about my... yeah, this is normal. When you have many dreams, let me tell you, Chris, that's actually her talking to you. It feels like it's alive because there is no such thing as death. If you reach my level of understanding of the world, you will begin to realize that there is no death, and that somehow she's communicating with you because your mind is so preoccupied during the day that you cannot see her. She's always with you. Trust me, she's always with you, even now. I do keep myself busy with playing outdoor tennis. Very good. That's very good. Surrounding of friends, Kantinan says, no isolate. My friend, even in my family, my brother is double amputee. My other brother has lost vision in one eye. I may lose the other, but at least both of them have siblings and a wife. Was that a complaint? Or was that a gratitude thing? No, I'm just kidding. Just a joke. Let me tell you that I was present at 3 times when she collapsed, and about 20 alive. And I experienced all the scenario in the ICU. Wow, that's very tough. Last 15 months were all dedicated for her 24/7. You're a good man. And she was lucky that you were there. I keep myself busy by watching you clips like yours, blog, and many more on the philosophy of life. Please share my blog with, there are a lot of people like you who are in pain and would like to help, some form of help. I haven't learned how to do this yet, to put SEO, hoo ha ha ha, and all these other things on. I don't know how to do all that. So I am getting a lot of help from a lot of people who care about me and who want to see this going out in the world. Some people just make comments and leave. Thing says, I would like to send you my care and love to you while you are dealing with this difficult time. You can email me if you want to share me your story. Well, here you go, Chris. There's one woman in Thailand who would like to help you and to reach out to you. So please take advantage of this. And she gave you her email so that you can email her as well. And if anybody else is listening, this is a very giving woman that I found. And that's very, very cool. I'm keeping myself busy. Read above SVP. What is SVP? I do not have any bad habits. I'm okay physically. Kindly read above chats, which may give you more insight. Thing, Christ, you also contact charity organization for emotional support. Befriender Center. Very good suggestions. There you go. Sawas di Kapinam. There must be a secret to Kawas di Kapinam. It may be a blessing. So you have somebody else's blessing at the same time. Oh, sorry, I'm taking a look here. Kunam, welcome to the show. Kunam is one of my students and now my teacher at the same time. So she's teaching me a lot about life and what to do as well. So you have to understand that part of the thing that you're going through, and it's natural, grief makes people angry. People in grief naturally ask questions like, why, or In your case, why her? Why me? Why now? Why like this? Most of these questions have no answers. They're hypothetical questions and can be answered. You're just very difficult. So frustration with the lack of answers causes us to feel the resentment and the anger. We want someone to, blame: God, doctors, the church, ourselves. We might even blame the one who died. So we can accept the lack of answers to why. We might even begin to ask instead, what can we do now to go through what has happened? Then when you start to ask yourself this, what can we do now to grow through this and to survive this and to emerge a better person to help others? Especially since you've experienced the pain firsthand, now you can help others who are going through it. And then at that point, you have started to move beyond anger and towards hope and acceptance. Emotional upheaval characterizes all kinds of grieving. A loved one's death disrupts emotional balance. Yes, it does. The variety, the intensity of feelings can seem overwhelming, Chris. And other grievers like you and and counselors can actually help us to interpret and deal with the feelings that we have. But other grievers are going through the same, and your experience doing this and the way you handle this might be knowledge that is useful for them to have and for them to know. So as we come to understand what we experience, we can find appropriate ways to ventilate our emotions and to channel them, constructively. More times than not, people who grieve too long, they lack direction and purpose. At times in this grieving process, a kind of drifting occurs. Mourners, people who are mourning, find familiar and necessary activities difficult. So they prefer to daydream about what was or fantasize about what might have been. If we can foster gratitude for everything in the past and begin to assess our potential because of everything that happened. You look at the potential for the future, you assess the potential for the future, then you start to become future oriented, not past focused, which means that you are now solution focused and you're now possibility thinking. And so when you think in terms of possibilities, you begin to realize it's a passing phase, everything that happened in the past, and not a permanent state. You've gone through it, and you're going through it, and you're going to get through it. You will be different, but you will be more powerful. Because healing brings hope for people like you. It takes time. It takes effort, yes. But gradually, hope draws power and resources to itself. We begin to express emotions without embarrassment or apology anymore for people. We cherish memories. Bittersweet, although they are, we begin to feel concern and show interest in other people. We make decisions and assume responsibility for ourselves. You might at this point be the example of a recovered griever, the hero in somebody else's story who is going through the steps as well. So start to spend more time with mental health professionals who can help you. And don't listen to friends so much, but enjoy the company of friends. Because survivors like you reaffirm themselves usually, and they choose life. Eventually, grievers recognize and they embrace a healing truth. And the truth is, grief has changed me, but has not destroyed me. I've discovered new things about myself. I can build on strengths developed through adversity, because your adversity quotient now becomes higher. I am no longer my old self, but I'm still me. A new normal emerges for me. I face the future with confidence, and life is worth living because I can love and be loved. And you begin to realize this, then truly life becomes a miracle for you in ways you cannot even believe. My email is chrisvacha@gmail.com. Great. Chris, there you go. I see your email, chrisvacha@gmail.com. I cannot believe how people can be so mean. Yes, people can. At this level, you recognize not everybody is like you. But then again, it doesn't mean that they are bad, you know. Just to let you know, because when you come to a different level of seeing everything, even if you're going through it, you begin to realize one important thing, and that is, no matter what happens to you, this is going to sound very hard to say, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. It's part of a greater plan that you cannot understand, cannot see. If somebody, you say to the Great Spirit upstairs and say, why? He can't tell you in a way that you can understand, because you see things in one lifetime perspective. But it, the one, sees things in multiple lifetimes, not just for one person, but for 7 billion people on the planet, in an intricate gossamer web that we're not paying attention to. Multiply that by 1 billion planets and 1 billion dimensions. Now you begin to see that what Einstein, this guy behind me, had said, that I want to know God's thoughts. The rest are details. And he's right. If you do know how the Great Spirit thinks, then you begin to realize that you are not the body you see in the mirror. You are not the person called Chris Vacha. You are a spirit that was never born and will never die. But it sheds the body. And this wife of yours, this lover of yours, is still watching over you and still will have a relationship with you in this life and in the next. So I hope everything today helped you, Chris. We are now headed to 10:35 p.m. An hour and a half has gone by. If you have any questions today on everything that we talked about, feel free to ask me in the next few minutes. Otherwise, we will bring this program of Uncommon Sense to a close. We've been talking about depression, grief, and the causes of depression, the general conversation, and also steps that you can take to get through the grieving process. And I hope it helps you. And may also be something that would alter your life experience. Bruce, yeah, welcome, Bruce. One of these days, I have to call you as well and meet up for a cup of coffee or something like that and chat about stuff. So it'll be okay. So if you have any questions for me, ask me in the next minute or two. Otherwise, we will call it a day. And we will see you next, day after tomorrow on this program. And for those of you listening, thank you for your time. Is it my karma that I'm being punished, or is it just a fact of life? Chris, you're not being punished. It's a fact of life. People live, people die. It's normal. You know, I think if you remember, you're from India, right? So before I do go, let me address you here. Siddhartha Gautama teaches us that life is impermanent, something we cannot cling on to, no matter how much we try. Wherever we look in life, there is a process of finding, experiencing, and then letting go. We find a new job. We enjoy the job. But inevitably, what happens is the time comes when we move on from that job. The same thing will happen with love, Chris. We find love, we experience love, but the time comes when we must let go for one reason or another. Same with our kids, same with my kids. We have children, we nurture them, we love them, but time comes when we must let them go. So all moments of life come like that breath. We inhale and we let that moment, that breath that we inhale, fill our entire being. But then we must let it go. You see, only by letting go of one breath can we experience the next breath. And that's why we breathe. Our breathing is a reminder that life is like that. Because if you try to hold on to that one breath, you will suffocate. Because the body needs fresh oxygen. And so too, the mind and the spirit. So we need to breathe in. We need to experience. We need to then let it go and breathe out. And this is the three-pronged wheel of life that everybody talks about. But at times, though, we get caught up in one of those prongs, and so sometimes we're caught on finding new things. We go from one job to a next job, from one person to another person, constantly wanting to experience more and more and more. And at other times, we're stuck in one experience. So perhaps we're trapped in a relationship that is no longer healthy or positive. Perhaps we no longer enjoy our job, but we feel trapped in them. And so there's no way we can leave. And finally, at times, we hold on to something that has already passed. And yet, I remember holding on to someone, and I found it very difficult to let that someone go. But I knew I must. We will remember them, and the emotions will be there. Emotions are like quicksand. There comes a time when you know you need to get out. But the more you fight, the more you struggle, the more trapped you become. And soon you'll be stuck in a rut. You can't fight to let go. Because when you make yourself fight something, you're giving that something control over yourself. Trying to let go of emotional pain by fighting is like trying to get rid of a scab on your body by scratching it. It's only going to make things worse. You cannot fight to let go, Chris. You cannot let go by gripping tighter. You must loosen your grip a little bit. You must accept that this is reality. This acceptance is one of the main points of what Siddhartha was teaching at that point. Simple wisdom before it became a religion of sorts. He told us, you gotta stop fighting and allow your soul to accept. To accept means we have to let go. And this is the link between meditation and grief, because meditation helps us to let go. Paying attention to all the gratitude that experience has given us. Past experiences can haunt our existence like a smear on the retina of the conscious mind. We focus on the past experiences, on what was lost, and prevent ourselves from seeing the present moment, the gratefulness that exists in the moment, in our bodies, and everything that we've taken in from our partner. And this is only going to lead to more harm and pain if you focus on the past. What if? What could have been? What should have been? What may have been? If only. That kind of thinking will destroy you. You need to focus instead on the present moment, where you are now and where you're headed. Where were you both headed? Why not continue that walk? Because she's with you still in spirit. And this will clean the consciousness of this smear and allow us, you, me, everybody to live free from the ghost of all past experiences. The only way to let go of the past is to focus on the present moment. And that's where meditation comes in. By focusing the mind on the present moment, meditation helps us to get off the past. Siddhartha taught us that the root of all suffering, including grief, is attachment. And this is one of the four noble truths I think he was teaching, Attachment is when you hold on to something in your mind. When you use meditation for grief and loss, you let go of that attachment. Say, for instance, imagine now, you've lost your wife, something that I went through a couple of years, decades ago. And now the reality, of course, is sadly that the person has somehow either passed away, disappeared, gone out totally, or was an illusion altogether. But because you love them so very much, you just can't let go. Your mind holds on to the image of them, and that's called attachment. So imagine there are two forces. One force is reality. The other force is your idea of reality. Your idea of your wife being alive. These two forces are working in opposition because the reality is that the person has passed away. But your mind is attached to the idea of them being alive. So when any two forces work in opposition, there's always a strain, In grief, we can have the strain of your mind versus reality. And naturally, the reality is not going to change. So the only other solution is to let go of your mind. And this is what we practice when we use meditation for grief and to pay attention to what's happening with you. Be fully aware and conscious of what you're going through. There's a story of a woman, a female disciple of Buddha at that time. She had lost her daughter and was stricken with sorrow. And her daughter was the daughter of the king, but she soon died after birth. So this woman mourned the loss of her daughter every day at the funeral ground. And one day, the funeral ground was full of people. And so Siddhartha was traveling through the region. He was teaching the people. And this woman listened to him, and she was overcome with grief and loss. She ran to the river and wept. And Siddhartha heard the woman's crying, and he really wanted to help her. So she told him when he walked up to her about her loss and what had happened. And Siddhartha pointed to the funeral grounds and said these words: "Mother, you cry out whatever her daughter's name was in the woods. Come to yourself. 84,000 daughters have the same name as your daughter, and they have all burned in the funeral of life. For which one are you grieving?" And with those words, Siddhartha reminded that woman that she was not alone, that we have all experienced grief and loss, that we are together in this pain, that grief and loss touches us all. It makes us feel alone, yes, but in the pain, we are more together than ever before. So we take solace in the wisdom that you are not alone. And when you do that, you start to let go of a past and start to welcome a future, stronger, better. And you're not alone because 2 or 3 people have given you their contact number and will contact you and be your friend if you have none. Overcoming grief and letting go is hard, Very hard. It's hard because of the inner struggle. Have you ever felt that inner struggle about any other thing in your life? And yet when you think about it, Chris, you went through them. You survived very well. So when you're trying to overcome this grief and loss now, currently, you may feel as though part of you is pulling one way and part of you is pulling the other way. When that same thing happened to me, I remember desperately wanting to say the things I never got to say. There was no time to say what I needed to say. Okay. I don't understand these comments. Well, let me read it from the start. Thank you for sharing every great topic, every episode. Thanks all friends for sharing your ideas. All reminds me. Kantinan, thank you. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's it go. Chris says, yes, I read about Buddhism. I should learn to let go. And it's true sometimes time does not stand still. Thanks, my brother. We'll be able to keep you updated about the benefits of your time. Noraini, finally, how are you? Were you in prison? Says, hi, Dr. Mel. Kantinan says, meditation, gratitude. Kantinan continues to say, clean the consciousness. Kantinan continues to say, wow. Kantinan continues to say, release attachment. Buddhist, Thai people speak with one word, sometimes two, if we're very lucky. Put that in a whole sentence so that we can understand what you're trying to say. Chris says, should I force myself to forget about her? But that will make me guilty. The mementos, letters. No, don't forget. Do not forget. Do the opposite. Read them. Read those notes. Don't avoid them. I want you to have the consciousness that you are grateful for her presence in your life for 15 years. And that the letters and everything are just a reminder in case you begin to forget. And you won't forget. You never forget that which is in your past. You never. What I want you to do is take that memory and make it into something useful. Instead of hurting yourself and beating yourself over it. It's nothing you can do. Go forward. And both of you, you and your wife, wanted to live a particular kind of life from here to the future before she died, before she was diagnosed, or all of that. Continue in that direction to honor her. And you'll always have her with you. Kantinan says, Dr. Mel, how often and how long years we need to clean the consciousness by doing meditation? I don't know. Depending on how dirty your house is, the cleaning may take forever. And if you keep, the problem with people is they think meditation, mindfulness, being conscious, will one time being done will clean the whole house. Your house being your body, your mind. Like you wake up every day and you have a shower every day. Why? You already had your shower last month. You already had your shower last year. So why do you need to do it again? So consciously cleaning, using your conscious mind to be aware of your thinking and your dissociated thoughts, your conscious mind being aware of the fact that your thinking process, cognition, is flawed, paying attention to that as well. That's always done on a daily, if not hourly basis. And then aware of conscious, do the meditation. Me too, I'm your friend Christ. Oh, I didn't know Christ was paying attention. Good that, thank you, welcome Christ for paying attention. Not very often I meet a lot of Jesus Christ. I think I've met about 17 or 20 Jesus Christs in my life in the mental hospitals, but I honor them as well. My friend Eco says, it's not to forget her, but I understand it's part of life. It's a cycle. Everything is temporary and will come and go. True. Yes, do help in whatever way is always welcome. Please, thank you. But reminder brings tears. It's a catch-22. Yes, I know. Go through the tears. Be conscious of it. If I were in your situation, as you heard just now, something that happened so long ago, it still brings me to a few tears. But Chris, I am so busy. I'm so busy. I've written 157 books. I am always occupied. I'm about to patent 2 patents. I'm about to file 2 patents for things I created, invented. And they're not small things. They're things that will impact the whole planet. I'm always busy. And as soon as somebody shows me how to fix everything in my studio, then I'll be broadcasting not from here, but from the other side, the other room. Kantinan goes on to say, to be aware, thinking, aware of the fact, thinking, a daily meditation like showering every day. Wow. Yes, it's daily. It's like showering every day. You could even shower consciously, mindfully, and that would also help you, I hope. So pay attention to that. You're always cleaning your house. And some houses, they stay clean for a long time. Other houses get messy immediately after you clean them because your mind starts to starts to throw garbage all over the place. It's a kind way of saying things. But your mind, it's what you're thinking of that creates all of that garbage to begin with. So stop littering. Yeah. Yeah, it took 10 years because, that happens when you don't have a love life. And it gives you time, it's a lot of fun. Anyway. Whoa, it's almost 2 hours. The program you're listening to is called Uncommon Sense. You're listening to the voice of Dr. Mel Gill, and today's discussion was on depression and grief and how to deal with both and the steps to be able to understand both. It's not by any means a definitive program that will help you. You still need to seek the help of a mental health professional, but also at the same time pay attention to your own needs and pay attention to yourself. Because the more you pay attention to yourself, because nobody else is, they're all dealing with their own problems. The more you pay attention to yourself, the more you get to know yourself deeply. And how do you know someone deeply? Like I said before in this program, to know someone deeply is like hearing the moon through the ocean, or having a bird, a hawk, or an eagle put bright leaves at your foot, at your feet. It seems impossible while it's happening, but it happens. Discovering who we are is like breaking a trail up the side of a new mountain that we've never climbed before. And yet the deepest friendships begin when we look into the eye of another person and discover that they have been there too, climbing that very same mountain of pain, grief, disappointment, crushed hopes. It's always astonishing to me to find out that someone else sees what I have seen, and always humbling to learn that what I thought was my path, my mountain, is everyone's mountain and everyone's path. We carry whole universes, whole worlds within us as we brush by each other in the supermarkets. Even when we start to read mayonnaise jars and push away the customer in front of us, the entire drama of life churns in our blood as we rush underground to catch a train. Whether you're in Singapore or in London or in New York, we're always both so known and so unknown at the same time to so many. And this is why knowing someone deeply is such a treasure. Why you, of all people, Chris, were so blessed. 15 years is a long time, my friend, to know someone deeply. And you had that treasure. Many people don't even have an opportunity to turn to one person who can be with them. Not for money, not for fame, not for any form of satisfaction, but simply to be with that person. That's why knowing somebody deeply like you do is such a treasure. It opens the sky, of all time. It lets the song comes out of the sea. It lets the heart begin to sing like a photograph, to be developed for, or being touched by somebody else to see the same thing that you see. And though we may find someone along the way who's been where we are going or going where we have been, we must never stop breaking our own trail up all the mountains that are put in our way. For it's only by daring to be ourselves can we deeply know other people. And in this time of loss, get to know yourself. Get to know how you deal with all of this. Get to understand you as a person. Who you were with her is the same person without her. You can use this loss, Chris, to implode on yourself. Or you can use this loss to create a new path, a new trail forward. It's a mountain you have to climb. It's not easy. But it's a trail for others to follow. Because you will become the hero in this story. And in the story of your life. The next program will be broadcast 9 p.m. Singapore time, 9 a.m. New York time, and 4 p.m. Bulgarian time. Good night, everyone.
It's 11.